we're making this animation. We're going to take basically all the pictures and we're going to put them in a sequence and then add title and a sound. So to start off, we're going to go to File, New, or actually you guys, when you open Photoshop, you probably have this screen, right, with all your presets. So up at the top, we're going to go to the Film and Video preset. All right, and then you'll notice we have 1920, 1080, and let's just call this stop motion demo. All right, and actually probably to be a little better file naming, put your last name at the end of it. All right, that way if I did have you upload it at the end, it's going to have everybody's files and I can identify who's who. All right. Yes. All right. All right, so after we create this, we have our, basically they give you guidelines which are referred to as your title and action safe area. So we don't really need to worry about that so much right now. But so the next thing we're going to do is we're going to bring our files in, all right? So if you guys want to watch maybe the first time just to see what I'm doing, and then we'll do it again kind of, if you want, we can kind of make sure everybody's together. So we're going to say File, Script, and then Load Files into Stack. All right. So instead of placing every picture individually, this is, a script is like a little kind of program, a little macro, if you will, and it's going to basically open all the files and load them into the layers. So it's File, Script, Load Files into Stack. All right. You get this little pop-up window. We're going to say Browse. And now we're going to find this folder. What did I do? What did I do? No. We can use a folder also. Let me just make sure I have my stuff saved where I think it's saved. Desktop, did I save it here? Animation, stop motion. No, oh yeah, I did put them in there. All right. So I can select folder. And why is nothing showing up there? I swear I just did this before. All right. So we can see here that we have all these files. In this case, it's not very many, so it's going to process pretty quickly. You know, for your project, you're required to have at least 50 frames, so it'll probably take a little bit longer. But did everybody find that? All right, load files to stack. You can load the folder or files. It really works the same. We press OK, and then you're going to see the software is processing, and basically it's going to keep adding to the layers over here. So it's, again, the script or the macro is basically placing each image, and it's putting it into a layer. All right, so we have all these things loaded here. All right, everybody up to that point?
I have trouble signing in.
All right, so now that we have them in the layers, we want to get them into what's called the timeline. All right, so if I select all my layers, right now we see that they're kind of highlighted in white, so I can select the first one, hold the Shift key, and then select the last one. That selects all. All right. I know that we probably have varying degrees of skill in Photoshop, so you know I'm saying things that might be very commonplace for you, but I want to make sure that everybody understands what I'm doing here. Right. So did everybody select all layers?
Yes.
All right. Now you'll notice, and also you should have this kind of panel on the bottom here. Right. It's called the timeline. Does everybody see this area on the bottom? So we're gonna see this very small little button here, which if I was giving Adobe some advice, I would tell them to make this button bigger, right? But on the side here, you see this, it's called a flyout, or like the more options. Actually, where's the, I'm sorry, before we press that, there's a button here in the middle. It says create frame animations. Everybody see that? Press that. So what it does is it takes your first frame or your layer and it makes a frame from that. Now when we press this, we have an option to make frames from layers. And I think, Brendan, that's maybe We did something a little different there yesterday.
Uh,
All right, so we selected all, we made a frame animation, and then we made frames from layers. All right, so all of these images loaded. Now what normally happens for some reason is they come in your reverse order. So what we would do to switch the order, if we can select all down here, kind of, you know, the same way we did before with layers. Select the first frame, select the last one, and then on the drop down menu on the side, we do have an option to reverse frames. All right, so Brendan, just click that drop down there and reverse frames. So it changed the order of that. All right, so we can play it, and it's kind of hard with this one to see, but that it would reverse your order is what you're probably going to have to do. Now, also, some other things to look at. On the bottom, see how it says 0 seconds underneath each one? We're going to want to change that, because what that is the delay between the frames, so it goes from one to the other. So if we were to render this, you wouldn't really see anything. So I would do at least 0.1 seconds, and now it's going to slow it down a little bit. All right, so you can, depending on how much of a delay you do want, you can adjust that. Maybe 0.5 would be a little bit better, so you can kind of see it moving. But it all, you know, depends on how fast you want things to move. All right, everybody good with that? Kind of just setting the delay. And Manny, where'd Remy go? Where'd Remy go? Okay. All right, I want to show you something here. So just eyes up front. In order to add our audio, we have to make a little bit of a change. All right, because if you notice here, there's no way to add audio in here. All right, so what we're going to do is we are going to, in your own project, well, here's where it becomes the problem. All right, notice here that your frames are all in order, right, one after another. In order to add audio, you have to change it to what's called a timeline mode. But look what happened to all of our frames. Are they in order anymore? So you would have, I mean, you could manually move them over, but if you have 60, 70 frames, is anybody going to want to do that? No, right? So what we're going to do is we'll go back to our timeline, our frame animation. This is kind of my workaround. What we're going to do is we're going to basically make a composite video file from all this, and then we're going to open it up again so that the ordering doesn't change. All right, so let's go through this process. We're going to say File, Export. Where is it? Oh, there we go. All right, so it's right in the middle here, and then Render Video. All right, and so you can think of this as kind of like your editing type of file, right? So what you want to do with your own project is get all your clips in. You want to make sure that they're in order, and have your delay kind of to be correct, right? So that it's going at the correct speed that you want. Then we're going to render it so that we can add our titles and our audio. So is everybody finding this option? File, Export, Render Video. All right, so then you have a pop-up here, and we're going to do a preset here of HD 1080p 29. That's your frame rate. That's pretty typical for video. All right, 1080p is your resolution, so, or your frame size. It's 1080 pixels, usually by 1980. All right, so everybody see that preset there? All right, so we're going to say render, and I would put it right back in that folder that you have. So we have this little thing. It's thinking about what to do here, and it's processing it. Again, this is all going to be saved in this YouTube video. If you're getting a little overwhelmed by this, you're going to have this as a reference that you can go at your own speed and look and see what I did at each part. All right, so now where did this go? I probably noticed that in there, or should have looked at that a little better. All right, so right here, mine went to my desktop, all right? So I can see right here, we should have looked at that and talked about that a little more. So where it says select folder, we can designate where it's going to go. All right, but right now I just, mine's saved to the desktop, so I'm going to just cancel that. Now, for your own project, I would save this Photoshop file with the frame animation as, you know, like stop motion frame animation, right? So that we know if we want to go back to modify our frames, we're going to use this file. All right, the Photoshop file will keep all that stuff intact.
Wait, did you want that to JPEG?
No, Photoshop, PSD, all right? Because what happens when we save as a JPEG as opposed to a Photoshop file? It won't, yeah, it'll just be composite. All your layers will be flattened, all right? So I'll just save that. Now I'm going to open up that rendered file. So I just saved my Photoshop. All right, why is this not? It must be, usually there's a little status bar on the bottom. I think it's still saving. I must have a pop-up somewhere.
Really good.
All right, so we're going to press OK. All right, we're going to save that file. And now I'm going to open the MP4 that I created. All right, so that file format, it said it was on the desktop. Where is it? Oh, for some reason my filter was on 3D Studio Files, so I'm going to say all formats. Alright, so you can open a video file in Photoshop, which maybe you never realized, alright? But now we have, so this is what we should be seeing, alright? And this is why I said that we wanted to convert it, because we don't see frames anymore, right? And as Brendan was saying, you know, if we wanted to change the speed between the delay, we can't really do that. So that's kind of the downside of it. However, now we can add an audio file, right? We see this option here, video track, or I'm sorry, audio track. So we'll just press the audio icon there, and now I can go and I can find the knife fight file that I gave you guys. All right. So we play this, and we have. All right. But look at what happens here, right? So notice that the video ended and the audio is still playing. All right, so this is called a timeline, right? It shows what's happening within time. I can see if my green icon or layer is my audio and it's going too far. So on the bottom of your timeline panel, you have a zoom slider, all right? So this allows me to see, it's not shortening anything, it's just kind of zooming out. So I want you to use this zoom slider, all right, and then kind of trim down the audio so that it goes and it's the same length as our video, right? So now I can zoom in. I always like to try to see everything on the timeline, all right? But now I can see that, and this is our playhead. This allows us to scroll through without, you know, we can kind of go a little bit quicker. So I move the playhead back to the beginning, and I can press play, and we see that our action's happening, and then it stops both at the same time. To add our text, we're just going to look on our toolbar. We're going to select the type tool. All right, and I'll make it kind of simple today. We'll just have you guys add your name, or if you want to do a title. So but this way I can make sure that we're all kind of following along here. All right, but notice that when we put our type in, right, it looks like everything disappeared, right, on our screen. Did we lose everything that we did from the video? No, what happened? Look at our timeline. We see the text here, right? So what it did is it put our text after everything. All right, now what you'd think you could do is move it over, but I think since if you look at our layers, the text layer is inside of this video group, all right? And you can click the arrow and see that it is kind of grouped with that. So what we need to do is just drag the type outside of this group. All right, if you click it and drag it up, it's kind of hard to see on the screen, but there's a little blue line, all right, so we can kind of move it above it, and now we can just drag this over. Ooh, why is that selected my audio also? Maybe I have them both. Oh, there we go. So I can just move my text over, and now if I do that, now our name is in there. All right. So I'm going to leave it as that for today, as long as you have your name in there. So we're going to export this one more time, all right? And maybe even we could it would probably be best to save it again though as stapler timeline, right? Or maybe stapler with audio, something that's going to differentiate it from the other Photoshop file we have. I just put my name in there. All right, so that way you can kind of label it there. All right, and then we can export this one more time as, I would probably call it, you know, stapler final. Or, I mean, I guess it could be with audio. I always like to label things final, so if I'm looking through my folders or somebody else's, they know which is the final version, right? So if I render this, it's going to go to that location.
How'd you get it to make, like, how'd you get it to just stay on the screen and not have the white lines?
You have to move. So what happened was the text was like within in this group down here, right?
I moved it up all the way and it's still.
All right, give me 1 second. Let me kind of look at our final result, and then I'll do some individual explanation there. So if we go, let's just double check our final. Where did it go? Where did I put it? So if you're like me and you forget, if you can't find it, we always go back. Oh, it went to my desktop. So I don't know why I didn't move that. But here, it would be here. So I'll move it back in there. And here's our final product here, which I have on the other screen. All right. All right, and then so for your summary today, let's see how, I forget how Twitter handles video. If we can upload this into it.
Yeah, we can.
So if I just go into here, click on the picture icon, and if I go, yeah, it looks like it's going to take it. So stapler final. All right, so we would have that in here. So today we learned how to process pictures into a video using Photoshop. We could probably go into a lot more explanation of what we did, right? But I think that would suffice. So I'm going to come around. Anybody needs help getting to that point, that's what this time is for. If you have it, you can add it to Twitter now, or you can wait till later and maybe you have some progress for your own project. So, and actually, you know, I'll give you some incentive today to work towards that.